Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Anton, and welcome to today's video for Legends of Runeterra. Haven't done one of these in a while. Mostly in all honesty, because we've kind of been in a awkward spot for LOR content because, well, we haven't really had anything fresh and new come out, so been a little hard to make some content. But we have a set coming up, the Aatrox set. We're gonna have Aatrox, Kale, and Ryze. The set is called World Ender. So, like with all new sets and whenever we just get new cards in general, I have a video today to give you some new decks that are playing some of the new cards. Some of these cards are using the new champions. Some of these cards are not using the new champions. Wanted to give you a little bit of variety. I have 6 decks for you to take a look at. I do honestly think all of these decks are decent to some extent, and especially with a little bit more fine tuning and adapting to the meta as the meta shapes up. I really think these decks can succeed on ladder. Now that's not to say I think any of these will be tier 1, because honestly, some old decks that use literally no new cards could be tier 1. But I just wanted to give you guys some decks for the people who just want to play with the new cards, and you know they're not the greatest at deck building. Maybe they're just a little overloaded with information. They're just like, yeah, I want to play with Kale, or I want to play with Ryze or Aatrox or whatever, and they just want to find a deck list and get into the games right away. So let's go and look at these 6 decks that we're going to talk about today. So first off, we have a Kale deck, Bard Kale. Nothing too crazy here, in all honesty. It's a Bard deck. Bard's old news now, kind of. You know Bard decks, you know Chimes. You're playing Bard, you're getting his Chimes, and you're buffing stuff. It goes really well with Kale and Kale's followers because of Empowered. You're putting Chimes on these cards, and you're going from there. I really like Targon, though, especially for this, because in my opinion, Kale's weaknesses is that she does level up at the start of the next round. If Kale leveled up right when you summoned her, if you checked, if it said like level up when I'm summoned or round start, I have 11 power, I think Kale would actually be a really good card. I think her level up being what it is going to be what holds her back. So I like Targon because it helps protect her a little bit. Maybe we can try Ionia in the future, but Ionia, Targon, mid-range, and Kale is more of a mid-range champ. Doesn't feel that great. Maybe you can do like more of an all-in Kale thing with Ionia, but I think this is one of the ways to go with Kale. So of course, champions, just 3 Bards, 3 Kales. We want to play all 3 Bards because, you know, we want to get as many Chimes in the deck as possible. We got our basic Chime units here, Bird and Esmus. Everything else in the deck, just stuff that wants to be buffed by Chimes, you know. You got your empowered units like Divine Clerk, Winged Messenger, and Mihira. And then we also have Sparklefly because Sparklefly is, well, just a great target for buffs. As for the spell side, just a nice package in general. Sunburst because it's just a solid piece of removal. Moonlight Affliction, solid silence to help push through damage as well. Cosmic Binding helps us stall against other more mid-rangey decks and just get stuff out of the way as well with something like Mihira, something with Overwhelm basically. And the deal 2 is also solid. Purifying Flames, mostly in here just because it's new, but I do think it is solid. 4 mana for 3 stats is good-ish, in my opinion. And we're getting total 5/5 of stats, so 10 stats in total for 4 mana. That's a lot of stats. The issue is it's buffing stuff in hand, so we can't really use it as a combat trick. So that does kind of suck, but I still think it's a solid card. At least should be a 2 of. Gonna try it as a 3 of to start with, though. Next up, 3 Pale Cascade is just a solid Targon card, staple in Targon pretty much, not much to talk about. Same with Guiding Touch, just one of them. You can mess with these numbers, of course, as well, depending on how you feel. And then Celestial Blessing, a new card. Grant an ally in play and an ally in hand +1/+1. I honestly don't think this card's that great. I think it's playable and serviceable, but I've heard some people say it's better Pale Cascade. I don't agree. I think the cycling, the draw aspect of Pale is just nuts, but I'm willing to give Celestial Blessing a try, so we're going to play all 3 on this list. But yeah, overall, I think it's a solid deck. I do honestly think Kale is the weakest of the champions though, so if this deck just doesn't seem to perform, I'm gonna blame Kale. Anyway, our next deck, a deck that has no new champions. We got Vayne Illaoi. Only just a couple of new cards in this deck. Standard, like, what you would assume from a Vayne Illaoi deck. We got Vayne and we got Illaoi. We got Darken Aegis, Harpy, Cooks, Sea's Voice, Broadwing, Idol, Elkin. Solid unit base. Darken Aegis is great. Spell base, you know, you got your combat trick in the form of Sharp Sight, a little bit of card draw in the form of Eye, some interaction here in the form of Cataclysm and Concerted Strike. Now, the new cards. First off, Eye of God. I think Eye of God is a pretty solid card. Sure, not getting any stats from the equipment does kind of suck. Just like 2 mana for 0/0 of stats. That's awful. Spawn 2 every time you attack, though? That seems nuts in my opinion. Really gonna make a big tentacle, make a big Illaoi. Is that good enough to bring back tentacles? I'm not sure, but I do think this is really good. Also, it's not in the deck, but another card you can consider playing is Catch. Catch does work with Eye of God, so you could consider adding Catch to this deck as well. And our second new card in this deck, Champion Strength. 8 mana slow spell, give allies +1 or +4/+4 this round. If you have the attack token, though, you also give him Scout. Otherwise, you rally. Yeah, not much to talk about with this card. I just think this card is great. Scout's busted. Rally is crazy good. You can do some shenanigans too, with like some cataclysms and tumbles. I feel like, so I really like this card. Yes, it's a lot of mana, but it does have a game-winning effect in my opinion. So yeah, I really like Champion Strength. I don't think it's going to be insanely OP, but it does something that expensive spells should do, and that is that it should close the game out, like end the game, you know, kind of like a harrowing, like Demacia Harrowing. And Demacia is good at flooding the board and sticking on the board with their mid-range units. So yeah, like the deck. I'm not a big fan of Illaoi though, but Illaoi Demacia was a thing a long time ago. Like Illaoi J4, Illaoi Lux. Granted, like, it took a lot of nerfs, and the game did get even faster since then. But I think with Eye of God and Champion Strength, I honestly think Illaoi can come back in Demacia at least. Our next deck, though. What do we got next? Another deck that's using one of the new champions. We got Aatrox. Aatrox Action Severe. I like the one of Severe in this list, in all honesty. 3 actions, 2 Aatrox, 1 Severe. I think 3 actions because it's just so good to get action on 3. So I'm just going to play all 3. I also don't feel like a third Aatrox is better than a 1 of Severe. Severe is just so annoying. Being able to share keywords, of course, is really good. So I really like the 1 of Severe over the third Aatrox. The other way I would go with this, if you do want to play Aatrox and you're just saying like, okay, streamer, give me some Aatrox list. I like this Aatrox list, but like I was saying, the other way I would go is Demacia. You know, for just for your standard Demacia spells, Broadwing, stuff like that. You know, things like Sharp Sights, combat strikes in general, like single combat. I do think Shurima's a little bit better. I think Shurima's unit base is just that much better. Things like Forsaken Bakai are nuts. Merciless Hunter is great, of course. Not to mention like the other units like Action's crazy good. Spells are nice too. You get access to Counter Magic and Quicksand, and Desert Duel is no single combat, but it's a decent replacement. And Shapestone's no Sharp Sight, but again, it's a decent replacement. As for the rest of the deck, we're just playing a nice suite of equipment here. Really trying to get to play World Ender and, you know, have a lot of equipment on these units, and then play World Ender and just get a bunch of Darken right away. Maybe get like Harazi, Steratu, I don't know, like Gerald, Zolani, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that is the way to go. I also do like the one of Altar of Blood. The Altar of Blood could just be another Preservarium if you don't like Altar of Blood. But I really like Altar of Blood, making it so that you can just summon cheap Zelanis or something. So yeah, big fan. I'm also trying out the one of Rock Bear Shepherd because I do honestly think this is decent. I might be honestly overrating this, but I do think the Rock Bear, the hybridating Rock Bear that pops out later, is good. Sure, it takes time, but I think you can afford it. I think you can buy time because, you know, Bakai, Treasure Seeker, Action, and Merciless Hunter are just such a solid early game. Plus, it helps activate Shapestone, and we're playing 3 Shapestones, of course. So yeah, really a big fan of the deck. I honestly don't think Aatrox is going to be that amazing. I do think Aatrox will be playable. I also think Aatrox is going to have some sick mind games against control players, where the control player's like, do I kill Aatrox? Or do I let Aatrox live? Because, you know, if you kill Aatrox, your opponent gets Darkened Blade, and they can just put it on something like a Forsaken Bakai, and they still have World Ender, most likely, and then they play World Ender, and Aatrox pops back up. So yeah, I really like the list. And unlike, say, a non-Shurima version, like a Demacia version, again, you have access to Rite of Negation, so you can theoretically counter their Deny or whatever their counterspell is if they try to stop World Ender. Anyway, what is our next list? Our next list is a deck that I'm actually going to be playing a lot. It's actually a little bit terrifying in my opinion. I don't think it's going to be that great, but I am a little scared of it if it does work out, and that is Viego Targan. Mono Viego, Purple Viego, whatever you want to call it. So why Mono Viego? Well, one, I think is just, like, who else would we play? Evelynn? Like, you can definitely fit in another champion, don't get me wrong, but, like, Elise isn't doing much. We don't really care about Thresh. Like, Evelyn's whatever, but we're not really playing a Husk followers, so I'm not a fan of Evelynn. So I'd rather just play more spells and more units that just have synergy with the overall deck. Now, if you're wondering, okay, Streamer, talk to me more. What's the deck trying to do? It's a Viego deck, basically, at its heart. We play Viego. We want Viego to level. That doesn't work. We'll just play like big Hydravine into big Encroaching Mist. Why Targan? This card, the new card. Zelani the Bloodweaver. That's the only new card in this deck. I really, really like Zelani. 7 mana 2/2, Overwhelm. She has +2/+2 for each ally that died with its power increased. A little bit of an awkward wording there, but you know what things die that have had their power increased? Encroaching Mist. So it's actually, this deck's reminding me, and of course there's the Empowered 16 too, but if you somehow hit Empowered 16 with Zelani, unless your opponent's like a removal pile deck with Vengeances or Disintegrates, you're most likely winning. But this deck reminds me of Red Viego, Legion Deserter Viego, Viego Noxus, whatever you want to call it. That deck was like I'm just not going to play protection spells. I'm just going to dump unit after unit after unit. Big guy, big guy, big guy, to try to overload my opponent's removal suite. That's the same idea with this. We got Viego, we got Hydravine, we got Zelani. We even have a little bit of protection too, in all honesty, in the form of Eula to give Spell Shield to one of them. We could also give Overwhelm to Viego too if we feel safe. So yeah, big fan of this deck. Think it's really strong. Has a lot of potential here. I'm very high up on this deck. Probably does need a little bit more meta tuning once the meta starts to show up. Maybe we need a little more protection. Maybe we need to throw in a Bastion. Maybe some guiding touches. I don't know. Maybe Evelynn with a Husk package is better than, say, like Barkbeast's Burgeoning Sentinel as an early game anti-aggro package. I think I like Sentinel Barkbeast as both as an anti-aggro package and a nice solid beatdown package. Again, depending on the meta, I could also see myself adding in 1 to 2 atrocities. Right now, this is just a baseline. Gonna play it into an open meta, but as the meta starts to stabilize, we'll of course modify it. Maybe more Quietist, maybe no Hate Spike, maybe a second champion, maybe some atrocities, etc., etc., etc. And now, our next deck, well, we got another Kale deck for you. Leona Kale. Just in case you don't want to do chimes and you just don't want to do like the, well, as some people like to say it, a chime gimmick, which it's not a gimmick, okay? It's a legitimate strategy, but just in case you don't like chimes because you're not a fan of the RNG of chimes, I got Leona Kale for you. Pretty much just a mid-range Targon pile. I think it's a solid pile. Leona, ever since she got buffed to have Challenger now, is very strong. Of course, you can add other cards to this deck too, like maybe you want some Winding Light top ends. Maybe we're almost to mono Targon anyway. Maybe you want to add some more invokes like Mountain Scryer, maybe a Celestial Trifecta. Of course, modify the deck as you want, but I like the list we have right now. Sun Guardian. Sun Guardian is just a strong card. Still playing some Esmuses because he's just good. The one issue I'll have with this deck, in all honesty, is I feel like it will be a little tough to level up Kale. But I still honestly think it's fine. Like, I really am not like... I don't think we really need to try that hard to level up Kale because, again, we're just a Targon mid-range pile going wide and trying to win with Champion Strength. Like, that's why we're not playing Winding Light. We like Champion Strength here instead, because Champion Strength is doing a similar thing to Winding Light. Maybe if you're afraid of counter magic like Deny, yes, you can play Winding Light over it, or you just don't think you think the Overwhelm from Winding Light is better than the big buff plus Scout / Rally from Champion Strength. But I really like Champion Strength. So yeah, a solid deck overall, just your standard target mid-range, you know, lots of solid units, good stats, and big finisher. Nothing really crazy. In this case, it's just Champion Strength instead of Winding Light. And like with most target mid-range decks, you can add in some invoke cards like Trifecta. And our last deck for today, what do we got? The deck that I'm going to be playing the most, Mono Ryze. Just Ryze in general. I'm going to be playing so much Ryze. This is the deck I'm going to start with because I really like it. I don't think it's going to be good. I'm going to be honest with you. I do think this is going to fail. I think this is going to be a meme and trash. But it's going to be fun. And that's the main thing, isn't it, chat? Before you say, why not a second champion? I am considering adding in like 3 Karmas as a backup win con, but this is basically all in Ryze. We're trying to get the win con off with Ryze this way, where, you know, he attacks and you have all the world runes on the field. That reason is why we're barely playing any units, and we're trying to use our spells to try and keep us alive. Of course, some of our spells do create units too, like Portal Palooza and I, but they also help cycle through the deck, unlike our units, except for, well, the Stylian Disciple. And because of how Ryze's origin is, we got some Tellstones here, Entreat to find Ryze as well. You know, you got your Ionia protection package, denies, notifies, twins, etc., etc. You can add in other cards too, like maybe you want Will of Ionia, maybe you want, I don't know, retreat, etc., etc. So modify it how you will. I just really like this deck. I really, really don't think it's going to be good. I would love to be proven wrong. I would love to be proven wrong and to see a strong tier 2 at the very least Ryze deck that actually gets the Ryze win con to go off like once out of every like 6 or 7 games, because I do like that kind of gameplay. I like the alternate win con gameplay, and I really think Ryze is not going to be good because it's just too easy, in my opinion, to interact and stop the Ryze win con, unlike, say, Bandletree, back when Bandletree or even Sundisk were really popular in tier 1 decks. Anyway, that is it for today. That's all 6 decks I'm recommending. We got, what, 2 Kale decks, Bard Kale, Vayne Leona, Viego Targon, the Action Aatrox Severe deck, and this list, the Mono All-In Ryze deck. I feel like I've given you guys a variety of decks for people who like all archetypes. So, you know, choose one, maybe modify it a bit for more of your personal taste, and go crazy with it on the ladder. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys are considering playing in this new upcoming set, just what you're planning, what you think about the set in general, like your thoughts on the balance, Maybe you think the champions themselves are going to be weak. Maybe you're just going to play like Seraphine Bandle or Seraphine Targon in the new set, or maybe even like Vayne Kane. Like, why? You might be thinking like, why would I play with the new cards when Vayne Kane is busted? So yeah, I'd love to hear your opinions on this set and just what you plan to do for climbing. And if you guys just enjoyed the video in general, I would love it if you could leave a like or a comment down below. It always helps me and always helps out my channel. And if you guys want to watch me play some Legends of Runeterra, gonna be playing a lot of it for the next few days because of the new set, of course. You can always go and check me out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/Senaton, where I stream pretty much every single day. Anyway, though, with that all said and done, thank you all again once more for watching this video. And until I see you guys in the next one, bye.